Hi everyone, my name is Aatish and we're doing a special series of Women's Day interviews for News 9. Today I'm in conversation with Kainaz Contractor, who you might know from Rustom's Parsi, a restaurant she's been running in Delhi for 7 years. There's also Bhawan's, which does great mithai and regional Indian snacks, and Cafe Dori, where she runs the kitchen. So looking forward to talking to her about her time in the restaurant industry and how she got into food in general. Over to you, Kainaz. So would you like to say something? Or...
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi. How's it going?
Very well.
I've been
Go ahead.
So I've been in Delhi for the past I think 7-8 years now. I moved from Bombay, thoroughbred Bombay girl, but I moved here 8 years back to start my own restaurant, which is Rustom's. Prior to that, I was working with BBC Good Food as a assistant food editor over there. And prior to that, I was with Time Out. So my work portfolio has been kind of all over the place. I first started with hotels. So I was with Taj briefly. And then I switched to food writing. And then I went back to back to restaurants, because I've always harbored this dream of opening my own restaurant. And that's what I came to Delhi to do that. And I started Rustom's along with my partner Rahul. This was way back in 2017, I think. Yeah.
All right.
So it was quite a while. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds like the last few years have been difficult for you in food, especially. But hopefully, with things getting back to normal, yeah, we're looking forward to seeing what comes next from your kitchens, as well as if you have any expansion plans. But you don't have to discuss any of that yet. Let's talk a little bit about, like you said, your circuitous journey in food. I actually didn't know you were at Time Out till I started researching this interview. And I mean, I think you know this, but I was also at Time Out. Not overlap at all. So I'm glad to hear that. But can you tell us a little bit about your interest in food and how you got either you decided you wanted to join catering college, or why that interest?
Okay, so my dad was in the Navy, so we traveled a lot. So from the very beginning, my exposure to different kinds of regional Indian food, and even in the Navy, there's a lot of entertaining and hosting. So you do get to try a lot of different cuisines, and eating out was fairly common in our circle. So that's how I've always been inclined towards food in general. So at the offset, like around college, I always knew that I wanted to get into the food space, but I didn't know exactly in what capacity and in what exact direction that I wanted to go. And when I was in college at that time, it was either hotel management, or actually only hotel management, because at that time the surge of standalone restaurants hadn't begun. There were very few standalone restaurants that actually, I think Olive had just started coming, had opened at that time. So I think the options were fairly limited, and everyone was gravitating towards hotels and hotel management. But luckily, my parents did a I'm very grateful to them for that, but they kind of told me to first go in for a general degree, like do a BCom or a general degree that doesn't really limit you to hotel management, because when your people expect you to make the biggest and most important decision of your life when you're a teenager, when you actually have no idea about what you're doing in the first place, but you're expected to chart your the rest of your professional career and what you're going to do for the next 40 years while you're a teenager. So I think like I was all over the place at that time. So luckily my parents kind of, honed me in, and they're like, okay, wait now, there are plenty of ways in which you can get into hotels later on as well. But if you limit yourself to a hotel management degree, that's pretty much all you can pursue at the end of it after that. So which is why I decided, and at the time, to be honest, I was toying between two ideas. One was hotels and one was advertising. I was quite interested in copywriting and advertising as well. So that's why I did my BCom and I did a diploma in advertising as well. So I got to, give that a shot, and I did a brief internship at an ad agency in Bombay as well. But that's when I think it kind of sunk in even more that I wanted to pursue a career in food, which is why then I applied for the Taj Management Training Program, which is primarily for hotel management graduates, but they do have 2 3 slots for non-hotel people as well. So that's where I kind of applied and I got in, and that's where my true background and education in food and hospitality began with Taj.
Okay. And you said you were interested in copywriting, and then you kind of became a writer as well. So you managed to explore that. What drew you back to food, or what kind of drew you back into the kitchen?
Yeah, so when I was in Taj, for example, like again, because I was fairly young and it was a training program, I didn't quite understand the workings of a hotel and the organizational structure of that. So I assumed that because I was in F&B service, I would also have a large part to play in the kitchen. But that was completely different, and I didn't know it at the time when I was getting in. I assumed that, food overall is something that a chef plus a restaurant manager both kind of collaborate on, but that wasn't the case. Which is why I thought that okay. And at that time, I was reading a lot about restaurant reviews, food in general. Time Out was the my
Mhm.
biggest inspiration. I kept reading a lot of what was out there, and I think food writing had just kind of was in its nascent stages back then as well. And I thought, why not explore that as well? So I kind of segued into food writing, and I harassed a lot of editors, calling, and the only way I knew how to do it. So I was just blank calling, emailing, writing, and just trying to get a foot in. And luckily for me, Naresh Fernandez replied from Time Out, and I got an internship over there for 6 months.
Mm.
And that's where I think I learned so much over there. I was absolutely a fresher. I had no idea about writing, but I knew about food. So I think I learned so much from my colleagues over there. uh, and after that, yeah, that ended. Then I went on to BBC Good. I did a brief stint at Burp at that time, which was a website, uh, and they were actually launching a new food website, which never took off. But we, banked a whole journal of stories for that. And then after that, BBC Good Food happened, which was just the most perfect mix for me personally, because it had a bit of cooking as well and it had writing. So for me, that was, the ultimate mix of what I wanted
All right.
at that time.
I'm
Yeah.
going to actually jump to the present, I guess, and ask you based on the fact that you said, that while you were studying, the restaurant manager, the chef, the FOB, or front of house, were all very siloed roles. Is that the same at your kitchens now, or are you a little more interdisciplinary in terms of allowing people to explore what they want when they join at any of your outlets?
No, so see, that's what even I guess there's a reason why that happens, because a chef is trained in cooking. But I always encourage, I don't believe, I think if for me personally in our restaurant, an outsider, when they come, they feel like the roles are very, they're merging into each other, kind of overlapping, because I personally don't believe in that, very fixed hierarchy that exists in kitchens. That's something that me and Rahul consciously try to break away from, because we are not trained chefs ourselves.
Mhm.
So we also don't have that inbuilt in us that a sous chef only does this, or a commis only does this. So we, more than that, we encourage people to learn and kind of, if you have an opinion, if you have some sort of input on a particular dish or a input on a menu. Whether you're a manager, whether you're a chef, you should be able to give that opinion, and we openly take it. Like a lot of our, honestly, a lot of our brainstorming sessions when it comes to, even Diwali menu or regular specials. We do a lot of weekly specials at Bhawan, where we do region specific weekend menus. So at that time, we honestly take, if like last time we did a Uttarakhand menu, and a lot of my chefs are from Uttarakhand, some of my managers are. So we kind of ask them also that, what is the kind of food that you grew up with? What, get us some ingredients when you come back. So there's a lot of I think cross learning that's happening. And I don't believe in that. If you are doing, you belong to this department, you have no business in the other. I don't believe in that personally, because I
Okay.
feel like when there's a cross exchange of ideas, that's when, the best kind of work happens anyways.
I think I agree, and I think that comes up in kind of your little bit of journey so far, which you haven't talked about yet, which is that you were always interested in food, but like you said, you've explored so much, and then ultimately when you decided to get into the kitchen, you did work with, I believe, your family, or you moved to outside of Bombay for 2 months to learn all the Parsi recipes.
Yeah.
So that kind of exchange of ideas and just understanding things and then building from there is important. So can you talk a little bit about that in the sense of learning home recipes for before opening Rustom's? Um,
Correct.
as a woman, or were you expected to know this? Were you did you know a lot of it already, and then you just went to understand the nuances of it, or was it a complete kind of from learning from scratch situation?
So with Parsi food, I did know the basics in terms of the dishes that I liked. So I
Mhm.
knew how to cook those. But in general, like, I didn't know a lot of things. I didn't know how to make the masalas from scratch. I didn't know, how important the balance of sweet, sour, and spicy is to our cuisine. And a lot of things, like, how to fry your onions properly, how to brown them, at what stage to add aromatics, at what stage to add spices. So I didn't know all of that, to be very honest. And honestly, because I'm a, like, I've, most of my learning is through cookbooks and, the internet. Those are, because I've not studied, I've not done hotel management. My education about, cooking is mostly through watching videos and reading about it. So when I decided that, okay, I want to open my own restaurant, that was honestly a post 30 plan. But then my BBC Good Food turned vegetarian, and as a Parsi, I couldn't work in a vegetarian magazine. So I was like, okay, it's time to, escalate and fast forward the plan of opening the restaurant. So at that time, yeah, I did know, because I worked in Taj, I knew about the back end of managing the restaurant, service standards, the team. I knew that, but I didn't know the kitchen part of it. And the most important part is first knowing your own recipes. You can figure out the functioning of the kitchen later on, but it was important for me to know that. And my aunt and my mom, everyone in my family, they're great cooks. And my grandmother was the one who taught my aunt, and she was a fantastic cook. So I had to learn my grandmom's recipes from my aunt, which is why I went to Nagpur. And I was there for a good 2 to 3 months actually, right from learning how to make the masalas, how to choose the right kind of mutton. Mutton in Nagpur is very good, and mutton is very important to, your Parsi dishes. So I wanted to know what is the right cut. Do you use ran? Do you use shoulder? Do you use leg? So that kind of stuff my uncle taught me. We went to the market and, introduced me to the butcher and kind of learned that. So just basically starting from scratch and understanding the basics. That's what I did before we opened Rustom's.
Okay.
So that's what I did in.
All right. And obviously, since then you've expanded. Have there been any challenges you faced, mainly because one, you're not a chef, like you said, and two, is as a woman chef, do you find that people are, or a woman in the kitchen, do you find that people are less likely to take instruction or understand, or Is it a collaborative space when you're leading, or is it something that you have to fight for to get not heard but be respected?
So luckily for me, because I was doing the hiring and I had control over the kind of people, and it was a very conscious decision to hire people. And you can tell from an interview, right? Like if a person doesn't look you in the eye during the interview, or they don't look at you and they only talk at Rahul, and that's happened to me a lot of times. But this, honestly, this was when I started about 7 years back. Not so much right now. I don't feel that anymore, because my hiring decisions have been very conscious as well, in terms of hiring people who are not intimidated to work with women or do not see them as a threat. So I do feel that there was a fair bit of resistance earlier. And I don't know how much of it was sexist and how much of it was that they've never worked with a female boss before. So they didn't, know how to react or what the dynamics were. But over time, like I've had guys with me who've been with me from the very beginning. So we have a very good working rapport. When I shout, also, it's understood that, you know, it's only in the heat of the moment. It's nothing personal. It doesn't move on. But I feel at the same time, I have grown as well a lot while working with them. I used to have a lot of temper and anger issues, which I feel like have kind of toned down now. But I feel like I've learned how to get work done out of, people in a manner that's, use a bit of diplomacy, pick your battles, understand who you're dealing with, because you can't expect to change a person who's been, having that mentality for the past 50 years. You really can't change it, or you can't take it upon yourself to change it. But I feel like I've managed to figure out, how to get work done out of guys now. And it's more in a way of, be assertive, because I feel like a lot of women, when they enter the space, even if they do know a lot, they act a bit underconfident, or, so as to not rock the boat too much. I feel that is something that I've I don't do, honestly, because I don't see too much of a difference. Like when people ask me about women chefs, women entrepreneurs, I don't really, warm up to that conversation too much, because I just feel like if you have the knowledge and the aptitude in the field that you're working, it shouldn't matter. And that's the first thing, when earlier, when we used to hire, I think some people in my team used to ask me that, oh, when I'm looking for chefs, they'll be like, oh, but is it okay if it's a female chef? I say, why wouldn't it be okay? Look at who you're talking to. I say, why will I not want to hire? It doesn't matter if they have the qualifications, if they have everything. It doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman.
Okay. And then I guess this is outside of now your own business, but in food, there is a growing community of women entrepreneurs, women chefs, and restaurateurs. So kind of, do you all reach out to each other for support, or do you have a support system of friends who are from the industry, who understand the same problems you all are having in terms of staffing, ingredient sourcing, whatever it is, just those kind of food specific issues?
Absolutely. Like I have a strong, support of fellow entrepreneurs who are here in Delhi, because all of us are in the same boat. All of us are facing the same problems. So it always helps to, talk to each other and figure things out, because we also started out, we had no idea about, of course we knew how to run a restaurant, but to actually start a restaurant and then run it and then keep it afloat is a completely different ball game. So it really helps to have friends in the industry, and we are constantly talking to each other, okay, this happened, how do I deal with it? And just, there's, honestly, I don't feel there's a sense of competition anywhere. I feel it's more of a sense of camaraderie to just help each other out. And that's something that, and if you talk about women entrepreneurs, yeah, I feel that there are a lot more now, especially in the food space. And we do a lot of collaborations, whether it's Bhawan or Rustom's, and invariably, like a lot of them have turned out to be women entrepreneurs. It hasn't been a conscious decision or anything like that. But like in Rustom's, we collaborated with -30 to make our ice cream sandwiches that is run by a woman entrepreneur. Then when at uh, Dori, we have Gourmet Jar, again, a lady who runs it. At Bhavan, also, we collaborate with brands who make 21 Fools that does organic colors and organic plant based items. Again, a woman. So I don't know, it's not conscious, but I think we do support brands and work with brands that are female run as well. So yeah, but not conscious again. It happens.
And then I guess last question would be like, is anything, obviously you've had achievements that you're proud of, but is there anything you want to achieve in the next couple of years? And what in the last couple of years are you really proud of having done?
Okay. So honestly, number one on my priority now is to open Bhavan as a restaurant and, reopen it because we were actually, Bhavan was always meant to be a restaurant. And we were literally 1 week away from opening it when the first wave happened. The first lockdown happened, and our landlord wasn't very cooperative at that time. So we had to kind of shut shop even before it opened. So that was really heartbreaking for both of us because, we had put in all of our savings for the past 5 years into that project. So now we are finally getting to open it again. So I'm really proud of that. And also Rustom's got selected in the Essence of Asia list for the world's 50 best. So that was a really huge milestone for us to have, our restaurant in that list. So that was cool. But yeah, moving forward, it's honestly just having um, building my own community of people in our restaurants and doing what we love to do, which is promoting regional Indian food. And we've been doing it through Rustom. It started off with that, then Rahul had a background in Lota, and now we're doing Bhavan. So I think regional Indian food really interests us, and we love exploring that, tinkering around with it, putting our own spin wherever we can, and not particular, like we don't really do a lot of fusion stuff, or we don't dabble in molecular or anything like that, but it's just making sure that people first understand the basics of the regional Indian food, and then you move on to different interpretations of that, which kind of play around with flavors. And I feel Delhi has been great for us because people are very responsive to trying out different cuisines. So that's been great for us, which is why Rustom's also has done really well, surprisingly for us. And, we were honestly quite worried whether Delhi would take to a Parsi restaurant without it being, too bastardized or adding too much of mirch masala in it. But I feel, yeah, Delhi has surprised us, and people are interested in trying different cuisines. So it's great to run a restaurant here because you get that immediate feedback from a guest where they're like, oh, we've never tried that, we love it. And it same goes with Bhavan. People are surprised that Bhavan is a delivery brand. They automatically assume that it's a restaurant because we are constantly, just trying to keep people interested with different kinds of cuisines and weekend specials and this and that. So I think that's what really excites the both of us, to get that immediate feedback from our customers, whether they are dining in our restaurant or at home, either ways.
Amazing. No, I'm looking forward to trying Bhavans at some point as well. But thank you so much for speaking with me. And thank you for everything.
Thanks. Great being here. Bye.
Bye.